Hello, my name is Jorge Sanders, and in today's video we're going to talk about what went on in making my latest book, Deprogramming the Clone into the Human Hybrid. It was a long process, but it was actually very rewarding, and it was just something that took a lot of courage and resilience to complete. I wanted to share this with you because there's a lot of people out there that basically have dreams and are feeling the things that I felt 6 years ago, that are feeling a call, they're feeling that something within them is completely different and they need to change. So this is why I'm making this video, to not only introduce myself and my art, but to communicate with you and to let you know to answer that call that has been sort of knocking in your door for such a long time, and you seem to always ignore. I had that knock about, I would say around 2011. That's when I started to feel that the shoe wasn't fitting anymore. You know, I had a job, I was running a caricature stand, I had different artists, and there was just something about it that did not work. You know, I could not do it anymore. It felt wrong. It felt like, I was sort of like this character, in socially speaking, of course. And I know a lot of us are in that situation now, where we're doing roles and we're actually performing them every day, but these roles have nothing to do with our inner purpose and our true calling. A lot, especially artists in every venue, whether you're a musician, a writer, a painter, sculptor, dancer, you name it, or any other field really, we feel oppressed. We feel like it's almost like hitting the big lottery. You know, you don't know if you're going to be famous or if your work is going to be recognized, and or if you can actually perform the crazy ideas that are, you know, in your mind. You know, sometimes it's as difficult as just imagining, you know, things happening, but then when you come to reality, there's a disconnect, a big disconnect, and you don't know how to actually perform these things. In a way, that's what gets me to this story of how I came about, you know, painting the way I do and writing the way I do. I started feeling these downloads, if you will, that were taking me to a place that I was not familiar with. I decided to open up the door and answer it, and I think that's the hardest part of the journey, just realizing that the one behind the door is actually yourself. That's the person who's knocking and trying to, you know, get a hold of you. That's the hard part, to realize that you're neglecting yourself and you're not attending yourself. Therefore, you're not knowing yourself. And that I think is the hardest thing for any human being to recognize. And so I started to realize that in order for me to start embarking on this journey, I would have to start removing all the construct and everything that I thought that I actually was. And that was actually the hardest part, to realize that in order for you to transform and morph, you have to lose yourself to gain yourself. You know, that I think would be the hardest part. So I'm basically going to start, you know, back in a little bit in time and talk to you about the process, and maybe in some way you can relate and understand what I'm trying to express in this video. Going back to 2011, there was a great shift, a great awakening going on globally. A lot of people were waking up and realizing that they were not happy anymore, that there was more to life than they were taught or they were programmed with. So that happened to me actually a little bit late in life. You know, I was around 37 when that happened, but I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did, because I can't be the person that I was before. even if I tried. But what I wanted to get to is that it took me into areas that I never thought would be possible. Initially, I wanted to work with, paintings, and I wanted to have them have an image which you would perceive and look at, maybe, if you will, at Jesus Christ or Man on the Moon, or and then what you were programmed with, and then the places of the images would be displaced, and beneath it would be other images, and then you would see a sort of collage, if you will, of all these images, and that would make you rethink the image itself. Now, that was a great idea back then, but to make the mechanism and to have it work the way I wanted became pretty expensive. I wanted 33 pieces, obviously 33 being a key number, and I wanted to see how that would work. And the pieces were actually, after consulting a robotics engineer, he said basically he would do it for $7,000, and that was an eye-opener for me. And I said, wow, how am I going to make these? This is not going to be feasible. So I had to somehow express these ideas, and I had to come up with a way to explore these possibilities. So I said, well, okay, let's make a book. Little did I know the book was going to be the hardest part of the process, because what it entailed was for me to research things that I was really at the time not familiar with. So that's how everything started for Deprogramming the Clone into the Human Hybrid. It started as a sort of journey. Obviously, within the journey, I had to read a lot, and I discovered a lot of authors that with their works and research led me to different areas into and also breaking my head apart. From my construct or belief system. So that was a main thing that helped initially. Authors like Alan Watts, David Icke, Joseph Campbell, philosophers like Osho. Everything started to lead to the other. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff, Nikola Tesla, Edward Lee Skolnick. Mainly, the book that did it for me was author David Icke. He has inspired thousands of people. After reading his book, I remember the first time I read Humanity, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. My brain was obliterated. I could never even see the moon the same way. This was something that I've never read anything like this when I first had my hands on this book, and it was a really hard pill to swallow. I started doing research, and I started realizing a lot of the things that David was actually suggesting were true, and that was my initial sort of initiation. Not going to say that it was only through books that my awakening happened. I think it was absolutely everything that it entailed. It wasn't just that a mental state of awareness, and I don't think that propelled my being or feeling awake. I started initially seeing the ancient alien shows and becoming part of all these different new ideas and theories about where we came from, and joined meetups, UFO meetups. If I had to go to a Masonic lodge, I would actually go to the lodge, talk to Masons about what they believed in, and study their beliefs and their ways. This book even took me sometimes to research the Jewish community. I had to go to Shabbat and talk to rabbis, which kind of pointed me in the right direction when I was researching certain things. So this was a very odd place for me to be in. Sometimes I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing in this lodge? And this is really strange. I never thought I would be here, So it was a lot of that. It was a lot of venturing into unknown areas, and starting to put the pieces together and let it simmer, basically. I think after you read, you think, you process the information, then you start to see whether you're going to discard it, whether you accept it, whether it combines with something else, and you start forming your beliefs through this process. A lot of interesting things happen to me as an artist. I can only say that I found my niche, if you will, if you could say it like that. More than a niche, my purpose of using art again to empower artists and bring art again as a language, not as a mere decoration for the elite or the latest taste in art history books. I think that we can all fall into that unfortunate spell of satisfying the upper echelons of society with our talent, and that it becomes sad because we become a product. We become a decoration above their sofas, which is completely what art is not about, you know. So an interesting thing that I would like to share is that as an artist, which was supposed to be in the service of the writer, something happened, and the artist decided that he wanted to believe something else now than the writer, and they were not really, you know, merging and coalescing in ideas anymore. The artist wanted to do something that the writer did not want, and that became an interesting contrast for me when I had to start illustrating the book with the paintings and the work. The artist really, at the time I started the process, wanted to express different things that the writer perhaps initially did not, you know, agree with. So there was an interesting separation there in my process as an artist and writer. So what I'm basically trying to tell you is that this book initially became artistic expression. That's what basically happened. I never thought that as an artist the book would actually define me and give me a sense of purpose. I thought that I was simply going to work for the writer and do as the writer says and just simply illustrate, for example, when the hominids were being taken to Eden, the biological facility, and I would just illustrate that event, you know, faithfully. Little did I know that that was not going to happen like that. I was going to see, as an artist, a great chance for me to combine things and make you question even what the writer was trying to express. So that became an interesting aspect for me as a writer and artist. One thing that I do want to say is that art needs purpose, once again. I am anti-art in the way that, I feel every time I go to a modern museum or contemporary museum, if you will, I'm appalled by the type of junk which is called art today. And I think there's a big disconnect between the visitors and the viewers and the artists. There's a big gap that is sort of filled up with, you know, a lot of confusion, and that's in a way why they're art critics and art experts that will make that connection, but unfortunately art is now viewed that way. It's not supposed to be like that. I think it's as direct as you praying to God, and you don't have to have someone in between basically to do the translation for you. It should be as direct as a prayer, you know. So what I wanted to say is, with this video, is that we're going to have a lot of different things being discussed within this book. We're going to talk about the paranormal, the esoteric, the spiritual, the contemporary modern Eden. We're going to talk about the ascension process. We're going to talk about transforming yourself into the better version of yourself, basically. That's what my goal is, to help you to find your purpose and ascend in ways that you never even thought possible. Okay, so it's not going to be an easy process, but I will definitely share my experience, and as best as I can. I'm personally still going through it. A lot of the things that I actually have expressed within the book, I think they come from a higher state of consciousness, a different frequency. So sometimes I take also time to assimilate those things, and sometimes I don't assimilate them, or sometimes they're not for me, they're for other people. I'm just simply being used as a sort of vehicle to express these concepts. I think that there's a waveform of information that we all should access that would actually elevate our kind into a different conscious being, more spiritual being, if you will. I think that we all should benefit from that. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to basically wrap things up for this video. It's been a pleasure sharing the journey with you. We will discuss in other videos. We're going to talk about my paintings, my art, different subjects that are relevant to the ascension process, and for us to deprogram ourselves from the construct, the matrix that oppresses us all, and hopefully shed our fake skin and have our luminous self come through within the next videos. Namaste. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe.